Hey everybody, Rob Orgel. I wanted to touch on a very special topic on this video, and that's 22 silencers. Now, I believe I have 22 silencers. It's kind of a mouthful to say that. However, there are two that have really captivated my attention. Now, let's speak linearly for a moment here. I think in 22 silencers, people buy them and say it performs just as well as the next guy. And if you put them side by side and play with them, you might say, my buddy's sounds a little bit better than mine, but I'm not behind the gun, so it's hard to tell. So I found a couple of really interesting ways to test 22 silencers with the same 22 pistols side by side, and then switch hands, and then, taking it a step further into having an audience stand in different places. Now, I've already done this test, and I've already got the results, and I'm excited to share with you the results that I have found. But linearly, I was a big advocate of the Silencer Co. I think it was called the Sparrow, and I thought that was just the best 22 silencer out there because it sounded really good. Now, in hindsight, it was a little bit heavy. It doesn't disassemble very well, and once it gets really dirty, it's hard to maintain. So BDE from PWS, there's a handful of really good silencers that I've shared a lot of notes with other guys. Eric from East Valley Tacticals, another guy I spent a lot of time chatting with. He doesn't just run a store, he's passionate about silencers, so he's a lot of fun to chat with. So he says, Rob, you really got to check out the BDE suppressor. It sounds kind of just as good as the other ones, but it's easier to maintain, and it's overall a really good design. So I dove into that, and man, the rabbit hole goes deeper, and this is why I have 22 of them, and there are many more on the way for testing. But I have to say, linearly, after the Sparrow became not so interesting, the Mask became interesting. It does sound a little bit better. And then, linearly down the line, I just kept going deeper and deeper down the rabbit hole. And then the two newest iterations, far superior. I mean, the Hux work sounds good. There's a whole lot of really good sound in suppressors, but the two that have captivated my attention are the B&T Tiger 22 and this is a hard one. I'm going to start calling it the Saw 22, Stealth Additive Works, but I'm going to call it the Saw because it's easier to say. And holy cow, I've already done some head-to-head testing. I'm going to do more of it today, and I'm going to break at least one of them today. I'm going to try to break both of them just to see what they will take, because these are two of, I believe, 3 silencers that are made for 22s, but can shoot 5.56. So I've already done some testing, and we'll do a lot more today, and hopefully to failure on both of them. So look forward to seeing a silencer blow up today and finding out which one we find to be the best 22 suppressor today, not just in being a 22 suppressor, but also in being a 5.56 suppressor. Make sure you like, comment, subscribe. That stuff really goes a long way. It is the work you guys do in the comment section that helps grow the channel and helps the industry understand that what we're doing is interesting, and it helps YouTube understand that this is beneficial information, so it shares it with more people. And YouTube does not like guns, so the more you help, the more we damn the man, and I really appreciate that kind of support, so we can get more silencers, do more tests, and share these results, as well as break more stuff, because that's always the most fun thing. All right, guys, make sure you like, comment, subscribe. We'll see you in the comment section, and let's get into it. Alrighty, so for our sound test today, we have a 16-inch bolt-action 223 rifle. The reason why we're using a bolt-action is so we don't get any port pop or any bleed-off the back end, because on an AR-15, you really never find that perfect hearing safe. They all kind of ring my bell at around 139, 140 something. So OSHA will tell you that's hearing safe for a single exposure, but for multiple exposures, it kind of does damage. And I've got hearing loss and tinnitus, so it kind of just doesn't do me any favors. So on a bolt gun with a sealed system, I'm able to isolate much more how a suppressor sounds. So to start off, again, 16-inch ammunition today. We're using the same ammunition I always use, and that is the PMC X-Tac 55 grain full metal jacket boat tail ammunition. Later on today, we'll use a little bit of green tip ammunition, M855, for some other exercises and experiments we're going to be doing, but for now, we're sticking to the 55 grain. So on the end, I've got an Omega 300. That, in my opinion, is just the baseline standard suppressor of yesteryear. It was really the cat's meow for its time. It was modular, it's lightweight, 14 ounces, blah, blah, blah. But it is a full back pressure suppressor. So on a sealed system, it's going to sound very good. On an AR-15, it really is rough on that back pressure. And we'll look at that a little bit later in this video. For now, just on sound, we've got the Omega 300 direct thread, and then I took off the anchor brake, and I have a 5.56 end cap to make it as quiet as possible for this ideal setup. All right, let's go live, cook off a few rounds, and see what the baseline should sound like. So I heard no delta between first round and second round. First round, sometimes you get first round pop, we'll call that, and that's eating up the oxygen inside of the suppressor, and it sometimes sounds just a little bit louder. I found on some silencers there is a first round pop, and on many there are not. This is a great example of no first round pop. That was totally pleasant to shoot. I would not just shoot on a coyote hunt where I might shoot 10 rounds, but I would do it on a gopher hunt where I'd shoot all day, because on a sealed system it's very pleasant. On a gas gun or an AR-15, I would not rock this thing even for one round unsuppressed, unless it was that coyote hunt and I was all excited and the coyote came trotting in and I fire maybe 3 bullets. Outside of that, I would recommend always wearing hearing protection or using a sealed system. There's plenty of precision rifle courses I've put on where everybody's got a bolt gun, everybody's got a suppressor, and nobody wears hearing protection and nobody's ears are ringing at the end of the day. All right, let's move on to the next suppressor. Alrighty, exciting test we're about to do. Here's why I think this test is interesting. One, 22 suppressors can do 5.56 and can do 22 mag, can do 5.7, but really should they? And the answer is no. A cheap 5.56 can usually does a good job, better, much better than a 22 can. This might become an exception to that. I've tested these two already, the B&T and the Stealth Additive Works, on a few different systems, and I've been very impressed that as a 22 can, they're performing almost at 5.56 levels. So with a sealed system, we'll be able to hear a whole bunch better how this sounds, as opposed to when I put it on a gas gun, a lot of that gas bleeds out the ejection port during the cycle of operation, and that rings my bell and makes it hard to know if the silencer sounds good or not. So we're gonna isolate 16-inch with PMC X-Tac 55 grain full metal jacket boat tail ammunition and see how she sounds. We'll run 1 or 2 rounds to get rid of the first round pop, and then we'll switch suppressors and then decide which one we think sounds the best, having tested a bunch of 5.56 suppressors today and then testing these 22 suppressors. All right, here we go. So comparing that to a whole bunch of 5.56 cans, that sounds really very good. I mean, again, it's performing at like 5.56 suppressor levels. And I see sparks coming out the front. This is the first 2 rounds this suppressor has fired, so it's still kind of pushing off that machine oil and otherwise. So it's hot. This thing weighs like, I think I weighed it in at like 4 point something ounces. It's 4 point something, I forget. I'll have to pull that and put it in the notes here, but this thing is incredibly lightweight, and on a 16-inch 5.56, it sounded very, very good. I would definitely do a coyote hunt with that. I would smoke gophers with that. I'd shoot all day with this thing and not worry about my ears. This for a 22 can is very impressive. Alrighty, so we've removed the B&T 22 suppressor, the Tiger 22, and now we've got the Stealth Additives. I think they call it the Katana, something like that. Their 22 suppressor. I've already done this test a little bit, and so far I've been very impressed with both suppressors. I think it's an interesting transition that we're going from 22 suppressors doing 22 stuff to, well, what else can they do? And it used to be if you bought a 22 can, you want it to also be full auto rated, so you knew it would take whatever abuse you were going to give it. Now, if the new standard is going to be, it can do 5.56, well, I mean, how far can we push that, and which one sounds better for that role, and would you ever use it for that role? I'd like to hear in the comment section if you'd ever consider using a 22 can on your AR-15, because at this point I'm considering it. Deeper sounding, but it sounds good. No first round pop. Round 1, round 2 sounded the same, just like they did on the B&T. If I had to pick between these two, I think the B&T sounds a little bit quieter and a little bit deeper. I think, well, I don't know if it's deep. It's definitely quiet. I think the saw sounds a little bit deeper. Between the two, I mean, they both sound really good, and you know, I asked the audience behind me and we all kind of agreed that they're outperforming the 5.56K suppressors. That's how good these things are sounding. You can see I'm not wearing ears. It's not ringing my bell, not even in the slightest. Some of the little guys were kind of pushing ringing my bell. These two are not. So it'll be interesting to see how they perform on back pressure, and then what abuse they can truly take if we can get one of them to blow up or not. Would you guys all agree that these are like quieter than the Ks?
Yes.
Yeah, quieter. 3 for 3, quieter than the Ks. Very, very impressive so far. Now you might see in the video there's some sparks coming out, and that's because this is the first couple rounds these suppressors have fired. So they're pushing machine oil and other stuff out. That's why a lot of times they'll say after 1,000 rounds of seasoning your suppressor, then you'll notice less muzzle flash, less sparking, and etc. But so far, really impressive for a 22 suppressor to do 5.56 on a 16-inch gun. Let's see how they perform on back pressure. Alrighty, so the B&T suppressor I've tested back pressure on my 1 to 10 system. And the 1 to 10 system on 10 gives me last round hold open, and then on like position 2 gives me an Omega 300 last round hold open. Position 3 or 2, depending upon which end cap I have on it. Now, on position 1, the B&T suppressor was giving me last round hold open, meaning it was performing really very badly in back pressure. And even in position 1, it was so much back pressure it had a high recoil. So I'm guessing that with this system, which usually through setting 10 through setting 6, my worst suppressor gives me last round hold open on setting 6. So this, I think, actually might give me last round hold open on position 5. I'm going to find out because it is very bad on back pressure. Yeah, last round hold open on 5. Let's see if I can choke it down. So the big takeaway here is this B&T 22 suppressor might work on a 5.56, but that back pressure is really bad. So you see, I didn't unlock, extract, or eject. So on position 5 is where I'm getting my last round hold open. But know that that's a big deviation because we're using only 4 ticks on this system between worst suppressor and no suppressor. And then you can see it's not just extracting and not feeding the next. It's not just no last round hold open. It's not even extracting. So each tick mark is worth 25%. So now I'm 125% into back pressure of a standard full back pressure suppressor. And between 125 and 150 is when I lose last round hold open. So this B&T suppressor is massive on the back pressure. Does it sound good? Oh yeah. But on back pressure, it is bad news. So I'm going to lock this bolt to the rear, and then I'll put the Stealth Additive Works saw suppressor on there. Here's what I found on the saw. I tested it on my 1 through 10 system, and I found it to give me last round hold open on position 3. Now my Omega 300 gives me last round hold open on position 2. So in other words, back pressure wise, it is outperforming an Omega 300, which is kind of impressive. Probably a noteworthy bit here is the ends. The end of this B&T is like sealed system. The end of this saw is kind of more flow through looking, and I think that's really helping out to get those gases out the front and not increase that back pressure by a ton like it does on the B&T and all the other standard baffle stack suppressors. While I'm doing this, I saw something on social media today, and I figured I should talk about it because I don't understand how this exists today. Someone was asking about standard baffle stacks and 3D printing, and it blows my mind that we're still doing standard baffle stacks. If you're on a sealed system, a bolt gun, I can appreciate a standard baffle stack because you want it as light or as cheap as possible. But if you're on a gas system, having a 3D printing has unlocked so much for us and our ability to reduce back pressure and make quieter suppressors. And I've heard guys saying, well, you can't have quiet and low back pressure. And I've got a very simple answer for that. That used to be true. That's not true anymore. There's a lot of really good, the PTR 308 is my best sounding suppressor, and it's a 3D printed low back pressure suppressor. Well, it's expensive, Rob. I don't want to spend $1,500. Okay, I get that it's expensive, but I've seen it for as low as $1,150, which is, you know, kind of industry standard, and it's lightweight. It's a little bit big, but it is so darn quiet, and it's low back pressure. All right, let's see how the 3D printed, both of these 3D printed, Stealth Additive Works 22 suppressor works. Probably, what are we on? Position 5 right now. Did not cycle, kind of to the point from before. I'm going to put it on position 6. See how she performs at position 6. No last round hold open on position 6. Going to 7. So this is impressive for such a tiny little can that not only sounds good, but it's also kind of low back pressure. Really? No last round hold open? How very interesting. Okay, let's go to 8. I'm ejecting and extracting, but I'm not locking to the rear. Wow, this is interesting. It's performing better than when I tested it before. Maybe it needed some break-in time. Okay, so now I've got last round hold open on position 9, and that's like the low, high quality. I mean, the PTR is position 8, The standard baffle stacks are position 6. This just gave me no last round hold open until 9. Now, unsuppressed is position 10. So we're 25% of the back pressure of a standard full back pressure suppressor. So this isn't just a good 22 can, this is a good 5.56 can. So now I have to ask the question, what's it gonna sound like if I shoot it without ears on a gas system? I don't know, let's find out. That was pleasant. That didn't ring my bell at all. That was, man, it's gonna make 5.56 suppressors make a run for their money, because this 22 can is impressive. And at its price point, to be low back pressure and sound this good on a gas system. So the B&T suppressor, sound test wise, that thing sounds the best. But back pressure wise, this is incredible. I've never seen a 22 can do this. I don't put 22 cans on AR-15s. I sure the heck don't test back pressure on a 22 suppressor, but this is blowing the doors off of anything anyone else has done as of yet. And to shoot it without ears and say this thing is pleasant, this might be my #1 favorite 22 can. This is gonna be hard to compete with. Well, next question. Can we break it? I don't know, let's find out. What would it take to break this? We'll know soon. Alrighty, we're going to see what the B&T suppressor can take. I've got it on a 16-inch gun. I've got the gases choked down a little bit so it doesn't give me cancer this week. And then I've got green tip ammunition to be more offensive towards weapon. This is PMC X-Tac M855, also known as the 62 grain LAP, light arm, blah, 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 green tip ammo. So I'm gonna put a full magazine through it and see if we can get this thing to pop. I'm gonna shoot like 1 round per second just to see how it holds up. Okay, here we go, going hot. So that was about 20 rounds. And man, I could see the heat coming off of that thing, and I tried to keep it about 1 round per second. There is a heavy mirage, and it's beginning to change colors to like that tan in the middle. It took it very well. I did feel the back pressure increase as I continued to fire. I'm on position 6, which is kind of like a good medium, so that in case it went up or down or fluctuated, it would continue to run. And I could feel after about shot 5, more gases started smacking me in the face, probably because you're eating up that space and having nowhere else for it to go. I'm gonna give this a few minutes to cool, and then I'm gonna do the same test on the Stealth Additives and see how it performs at 1 round per second. So far, the B&T is doing really good. Sounds great, high back pressure, but that's a lot of green tip to take that abuse. All right, next one. Alrighty, really good success so far in the B&T. We put 20 rounds of green tip through the B&T and it ran flawless. Now we're gonna do the Stealth Additive Works. I adjusted the gas because it's a low back pressure suppressor, and we're gonna put 20 in and shoot the same rate, like 1 round per second, and see how she performs. Now I have already run a bolt action on this for 28 rounds as fast as I could, and it went flawless. It got very hot, but it was flawless. Hopefully this one performs the same. She's hot, but I don't see any discoloration. The B&T started showing some discoloration, probably because it's more of a nude suppressor, and this has Cerakote on it. But so far, I mean, I don't want to touch it right now, but it's performing really very good. And unlike the B&T, I choked the gas down in the B&T, and I was getting slapped in the face with gas. This guy, I've got the gas turned all the way up into the unsuppressed setting, and I can see carbon on my iPro, but I'm not getting slapped in the face with gas, and I was really having to hold my breath with that B&T, so I didn't have to inhale quite so much. This guy really is performing well. I'm surprised it's, doing as good as it is. 28 rounds before was on a bolt action gun. So as fast as I could run the bolt, probably wasn't that fast, and it's obviously doing very good. So I would say it's time to increase the rate of fire to as fast as I can squeeze the trigger. I'm going to give this guy a second to cool. I'll go back to the B&T, and I will rock it as fast as I can get it to go and see if we can get it to pop. I theorize that after 3 rounds or 3 magazines of 20, if it hasn't popped, I'm going to say it passed this test. And if it does pass it, I'll put on a shorter barrel length just to get it to pop. But I think 3 mags of 20 of green tip as fast as I can, I mean, that's a lot to ask of a 22 silencer. So I'm going to say if it passes 3, it passes that test, and then I'll move on to the shorter one, and we'll get these things to pop today. Whew, that's hot. All right, gun oil. Alrighty, so we've got the B&T suppressor back on the weapon. You can see it's cooled down. It's got that tan color to the middle. I've got 3 magazines of 20. I'm going to run it as fast as I can and see if we can get this thing to pop. If it doesn't pop, I'm calling it good. Also, we did put a little bit of oil on the gun because it was starting to gunk up. Here we go. She's changing color, she's firing. Whew, man, look at that. It's got a rainbow inside of it. My whole barrel system's smoking. I got crap in my eyes. My iPro looks like somebody shotgunned it who just ate Taco Bell. But it didn't pop. That is quite impressive. That's as fast as I can run. 60 rounds of green tip. She's hanging in there. I'm going to give her a little bit of time to cool down before I try to remove that because I like counting it to 10 with all my fingers. But that did do good. I'll have to say, full disclosure, yes, it's not meant to do this, but that was a ton of crap in my eyes, a ton of back pressure. I choked it down to position 6. Last round hold up with no can is 10. 6 is like the worst of them. And it was bad, and I felt it increase like it did before. So back pressure wise, definitely not meant for this, definitely not a good idea, but it will do this. I think the Stealth Additive is really gonna shine here. If it doesn't pop, I think it's probably gonna pop. It'll be good to know how many rounds it takes to make it pop. But I did see flames come out of this thing. That's typically where people say the point of no return, when you've got a flame continuous and you start getting that red from the inside. If you're on titanium, it's time for you to stop. But I would say 16-inch, it passes the test of 3 magazines of 20. Alrighty, so now I've got the SAW suppressor, the 22. Looking at the B&T a little closer, it was starting to bulge. I think maybe one more mag, it probably would have popped. I think we'll put on the 7-inch and see how she performs. This guy, I don't think it's gonna make it through that. I think it's a lower back pressure, maybe better overall suppressor, but I don't think it's gonna take 3 mags of 20 rounds of green tip. I would put a case of beer on it that it's probably going to pop. So kind of be ready for that and we'll see what happens. I've choked the gas back up because it's kind of that lower back pressure. Let's find out what happens. As fast as I can run, 3 mags, going hot. She survived. Red in the middle, putting out a lot of heat. I can see the mirage coming off it. I would have lost the case of beer. I'm glad nobody took me up on that bet. That B&T is bulging, and I think the B&T is designed like more durable. So I was expecting it to show no signs, and that's showing signs. So far, I see no signs of wear. I don't even see the Cerakote melting off on this. And that's on a 16-inch as fast as I can run it. I guess now we have to see what's gonna happen on a 7-inch. I don't know, let's find out. Alrighty, so we're already showing signs of failure on the B&T suppressor from the 16-inch, 3 mags of green tip as fast as I can go. Now we're gonna do 3 mags, if it makes it, which I don't think it will, 3 mags of green tip on the 7.5-inch. This is a barrel taken from a, what was this? The Springfield Saint something or other, their tiny one. I think it's going to pop, and I'd be surprised if it makes it through the first mag because it's already showing massive signs of bulge. Now, there's no way for me to dial back gas, so it could cause malfunctions too, and it's definitely going to throw a ton of gas in my face. What's really impressive is how well that saw held up. I mean, it shows no signs of wear. It's behind me cooling down, but here we go. This thing's probably going to pop. Make sure you have plenty of standoff, and I'm not responsible for any liabilities if anybody gets hurt. Done. Yep. There it is, bulged out the side. But I'm not done. Let's see what happens if we put another mag in. Get ready, everybody. This thing's gonna suck. That's the end of that. Woo! Blew out the side. One more. Yep, okay, I'm gonna call that done. It has blown out the side. Let's make sure we get a cool angle on what's going on there. Point to B&T. Let's clear this guy out. So you're a mag and a half in, showing all those bulge and wear marks. Let's give B&T credit for having sacrificial space here, that it blew out the side so it wouldn't hurt me. So it's got sacrificial locations that if it's going to separate, it separates in the middle and sends the core downrange and doesn't hurt the operator behind the weapon, which was, you know, very kind of them to consider my face. This is my moneymaker right here. I need to keep this looking good so you guys keep following my channel. So it's nice of them to make essentially a weak point in their suppressor so that bad things wouldn't happen to guys like me who are doing stuff we shouldn't be doing with suppressors. End state, the B&T survived 3 mags on the 20-inch green tip as fast as I could. It was showing failure. If that was my silencer, I'd send it back to B&T and say, hey, this thing's kind of done. I don't think it has life left in it, and hopefully they'd send me a new one. I don't think I would have kept it afterwards. So now to put it on this, it's like, yeah, it's not going to make it much longer. Let's see what it'll take. Now, my real question is, given that the saw did so good and shows no signs of wear as of yet, will it pass the 3-round 20 round magazine 5.56 test on the 7.5? We'll give this a chance to cool, get it removed, and we'll find out. Alrighty, now that we found failure on the B&T suppressor, what it took was the 3 magazines of 20, which caused it to bulge, barely like right on the edge of failure, and then 1 mag into the 7-inch gun, failure. If we had had a fresh B&T, I think it would have made 2, maybe 3 mags on the 7-inch. Now, the Stealth Additive Works, it looks like it's still in new condition. It doesn't look like it's bulging, it's showing no signs. So this guy might actually make it a lot further. And that B&T was throwing so much crap in my face on a 7-inch with the full back pressure system. This guy, I'll bet you it's gonna be a whole bunch more pleasant to shoot, and I really hope it survives the 3 magazine test of 20 on a 7-inch. Because if it does, I mean, at that point you could just call it a 5.56 suppressor, and they have not done any tests similar to this, just like B&T. The shortest they've gone was 11.5, and he told me, you're in uncharted waters, good luck. And well, I enjoyed learning at the cost of a silencer. Let's find out what this one can take. I got 20 rounds of green tip going in. Getting dirty. Getting dirty. Let's throw some oil on this real quick. All that crap the B&T kicked back into this thing, that's to the point. A low back pressure suppressor does a lot of good for you, not just in the day, not just in your life of not having cancer, but also in your range day. Your range day will get a whole bunch shorter when you've got full back pressure suppressors, just because it gunks up the system so much faster. Alrighty, that ought to get us through our 3 mags, I'm thinking. And I'll recycle that 1 round I kicked out so we get a full 20 again. There it is. All right, so now we've got our 3 mags, 20 reset again. That feels better. All right, 20 going in. Range is going hot, eyes and ears. Let's find out what happens. Well, it's sounding like it's failing. That doesn't sound like it did a minute ago. Come on, dirty. Whoa! Failure. I felt that. Now I know what it takes to make that thing fail. Holy cow, did I feel that. 7.5 inches and 22 suppressors do not mix. Alrighty, so what was the purpose of this video? Well, science. I had a really good time asking questions and answering them. Kind of in my life experience, both in the military and outside the military, there's a lot of things that people say you can do, can't do, and I'm a big advocate of, well, do I know that to be true, or is that what I heard? And I heard that the B&T suppressor could take a lot of abuse, particularly even down to some short barrels. So I'm glad I got the opportunity to test that. Even on the 16-inch, I would say with green tip, it really didn't hang in there so good. So if I had to say, well, let's go on a coyote hunt. Sure, shooting 3 magazines of 20 rounds of green tip at a coyote is highly unlikely, especially at that rate of fire. And that was the beginning points of failure on the B&T suppressor. So if you're not doing that level of fire, I think you're pretty good to be goofing off with a mag, even a full mag from time to time, and maybe even on the shorter guns, but not 3 consecutively on a 16-inch and then a 7.5. It very quickly proved that it doesn't like that. And it did give warning. It started sounding really bad. It started throwing the fireball. It was, pretty obvious to me from behind the gun that we were past the point of no return. I also appreciate that the B&T had a fail-safe where it blew out the side in a sacrificial location where it couldn't cause any problems. Now, the Stealth Additive Works. It performed better, in my opinion, on the 16-inch, showing no signs of wear, even with the 3 magazines of 20, as quickly as I could with green tip through the 16-inch. That was very impressive, the little effects it had, and it, I think, was still pretty much 100%. In other words, put it on your 22, put it on another hunt. When we put it on the 7.5, it very quickly communicated, I don't like this. And it went from sounding like a 22 can on a 5.56, maybe even kind of like a good 5.56 can, to a half of a 5.56 round. It sounded like it's angry, and there's a sacrificial portion inside of it, and when that folded down and compressed, I could massively hear the difference. Both of them gave me plenty of warning that you should not be doing this, and I pressed on. The B&T, it sounded like it failed, and I kept firing it another mag almost to see if I could get it to blow up, and it didn't blow up. The Stealth Additive Works, I could tell it was failing. I could see that it was getting red, but as soon as that first round popped out the north side of the suppressor, I immediately stopped firing. It became very obvious. If you fired another one, I don't think it would hurt anybody. I don't think it'd be smart or safe. I mean, even doing this probably isn't smart or safe, but here we are having fun. And quick movie trivia, I feel like I just got out of the coal mines. It's your first day in the mines, son. I got the black lung. Anybody know what movie? Anyways, my face looks like I got coal all over it because of the back pressure from specifically the B&T suppressor. So in hindsight, if I was to run a 22 suppressor on a 5.56 gun, I like how the saw performed. I liked how the B&T sounded. But overall, I think the saw was the best performer, not just that it was close in sound, but also that it was low back pressure, and it showed no signs of failure in those first 3 mags of 20. So I'm very impressed with the saw, and that it was still 100% at the end of that first test was also very impressive, both of which should not go on a 7.5-inch AR-15. In order to save ammo and not go through mag after mag after mag to find failure, I think the B&T, another half mag in the 16-inch, we would have found failure. I think the saw wasn't there. So if you're a 5.7 guy or a P90 guy, this might give you faith and confidence in buying either of these to run 5.7 full auto or whatever it is you might do with them, but they definitely withstood a 5.56 on a very, very high end. Now, some other tests that I did on a different day that I just want to inform you about, I did put them on 22 pistols and side-by-side testing them, and the B&T does sound just a little bit better than the Stealth Additive Works. So if you're after just sound suppression, the B&T takes the cake. If you're after all things considered, I think the Stealth Additive is the best all-around 22 suppressor, as long as sound is not the only metric. I know a lot of people, they're just after sound, and if that's it for you, rock on to the B&T. If back pressure and abuse and some other things are considerations, the Stealth Additive Works is a little bit smaller. I think it's a little bit heavier. I don't remember. There's like less than an ounce of delta between the two. So I don't know if you even want to talk about weight. Price point, I know this one's $310, and I don't remember how much the saw is. If you can find it, please put it in the comments section below to help me figure that out, because I don't remember off the top of my head. Now, the fail-safe thing, I like what B&T did. Stealth Additive Works, you'll see those sparks go flying. It looks like something you would see out of an alien movie before they melt an alien in some lava. But it didn't hurt me. It did kick crap at me, but, all good. The big takeaways. One, I love doing this kind of content for you guys. Thank you for supporting the channel. Thank you for the comments in the comment section. It really goes a long way. The best thing you can do to support my channel is by sharing this video with a buddy. Even if you send it to mom, who says, why'd you send me a silencer? I don't care about silencers. Just that you copied the link and send it, YouTube says, oh, he likes this, it must be good. Yeah, generically it's guys who watch my channel. There's very few. If there's any girls in my audience, I want to see a comment in the comment section. Prove that you're real, because you might be like the HK girl who doesn't actually exist. It's actually a dude. There's very few girls looking at silencers. So if you are, please sound off in the comment section. I look forward to hearing that. But for everybody else, please do share this video. It really does go a long way for us. Make sure you like, comment, subscribe. We got a lot more cool content coming our way. And we might even put it on a few different channels just to kind of test some different ideas as we continue to help get good information out there to the industry so that you can stretch your dollar and get the best silencer for your buck. All right, guys, as always, stay safe. We'll see you in the comments. And again, we truly appreciate your guys' support. All right, guys, see you in the next one.